I never envisioned an event like this happening in my life. While at a friend's house, I noticed that my wife Jessica didn't look like her usual self. While we were dancing, I inquired about her well-being. She started talking about something difficult for me to understand, moving quickly from one topic to another. I found myself unable to catch her words. After the dance, we moved to a quieter place, and Jessica told me that although she felt affection for me, she had feelings for others as well. In a hesitant tone, she asked for my consent to spend time alone with her former classmate Jason, who had attended the party and had managed to dance a few dances with her. This struck me as absurd, like the musings of an unhinged person, and I relayed my musings to her. Nevertheless, Jessica begged me to give her permission. For reasons I cannot explain, I finally agreed. When I asked where they would go, she pointed to a small house in the garden and asked me to watch her to make sure no one went in there. Like a zombie, I headed there. There was not a living soul around the house. So I stood behind the house, unnoticed, but I could see all the way to the house. It was a full moon night. I could see as well as day, so I could see everything inside the little house, the table, the couch, the flowers. And then I saw Jessica, followed by Jason. They were holding hands. When they entered the house, it was like a movie. It was like a slow-motion movie. About 20 minutes later, as they were leaving the house, Jason kissed Jessica goodbye and went back to his guests, and she stayed behind. Jessica noticed me and beckoned me over to her. She kissed me, thanked me for letting them be alone, and told me I was the best husband ever. We stayed at the house for half an hour, and when the guests entered the house to continue the banquet, we discreetly left for our home. So there was no quarrel between Jessica and me. Although at first I was afraid of it, I thought I was doing the wrong thing. We love and respect each other. The thought of divorce never even crossed our minds. But sometimes Jessica wants to be with someone else. So what's wrong with that? I'm not without sin, and Jessica doesn't know much about me, although I will eventually tell her all my secrets. As the days passed after that night, something changed between Jessica and me. Our conversations became deeper, more open. We talked about the things we'd kept locked away for years, fears, desires, and the parts of ourselves that we hid not out of shame, but out of a desire to protect each other. And the more we shared with each other, the more I realized that maybe our love wasn't something that could be corralled into conventional rules. It was something else, something stronger and more complex. A week later, Jessica and I were sitting on the porch, the cool evening breeze blowing around us. We sipped our wine, enjoying the quiet hum of the neighborhood. Jessica broke the silence. Do you ever wonder what would happen if we weren't so attached to what people think? She asked quietly, looking off into the distance. What do you mean? I reply, though I already had an idea. I mean, if we could be free to explore other parts of ourselves without guilt, without fear that it would break us. I took a deep breath, weighing her words. They echoed the thoughts that had been visiting me since that night. I've thought about it, I admitted. But I'm also wondering if it would complicate things. Jessica turned to me, her eyes searching mine for an answer. You want to give it a try? To see if we can have that kind of freedom and still be strong together. It was a serious question. We were stepping into uncharted territory. But deep down, I knew that my love for her wasn't fragile, that we had built something that could withstand anything, even the uncertainty of finding a way beyond what we knew. "I think it could work," I said finally, watching her reaction. "But we have to be completely honest with each other. At all times. No more secrets." Jessica smiled, her relief and excitement obvious. "No more secrets," she agreed. That night, we talked about boundaries, about what this new chapter of our lives would look like. There was something liberating about laying it all bare, admitting that we both had desires, but those desires didn't diminish our shared love. A few weeks later, Jessica came to me with a new request. She had reconnected with an old friend from college, a woman named Rachel. It wasn't like what had happened with Jason. It was different. There was no guilt in her voice, no fear in her eyes. She was just telling me, because, as we'd promised, there would be no more secrets. "Don't you think it's too much?" she asked one night. "We haven't gone too far?" I took her hands in mine. "I don't think there's such a thing as too far for us," I said. "We're building something new, something that works for us." Our relationship began to change. There were evenings when Jessica would go out, sometimes with Jason, sometimes with Rachel, and I would stay home, reading or thinking about something of my own. But I wasn't alone for long. As time went on, I started exploring too. I reconnected with an old coworker, Sarah, and for the first time, I allowed myself to engage in something that seemed natural, something I had always suppressed because I thought it would ruin what Jessica and I had. But instead, I began to appreciate her even more. Our connection deepened, not in spite of the freedom we gave each other, but because of it. We became more honest, more aware of what the other needed, and less afraid of losing what we had built together. There was passion in the newness, but also a solid foundation, the love and respect we had for each other. One night, after Jessica returned from spending the evening with Rachel, she curled up next to me on the couch. "I think we did something incredible," she said quietly. "We've created something that most people are afraid to even imagine." I smiled and kissed the top of her head. "Yes, we did. And as long as we have each other, I think we can keep growing, keep exploring. There is no end to this journey." Jessica and I had found a way to be both passionate and free, a love that was unbreakable but not constraining. We were no longer afraid of what the world might think. We made our own rules, and for the first time in our lives, we were truly living. The future stretched out before us, wide and full of possibilities, and I knew that wherever it took us, Jessica and I would meet it together. Translated with Deeple.com free version.